to Divya. Oh, fantastic. Great. That's really good. So I'm just going to quickly introduce our mentor for the day. This, as Purti mentioned, is a critical masterclass for everybody who's in the competition and is planning to go on to the next stage. Divya Sampath is a sponsor and portfolio partner of Achieving Women Equity Funds and the innovation advisor at Aspire for her. Divya is a venture partner with Digital Skills, and she's been advocating digital skills for over 25 years. She has been building fast growth, multi-country digital businesses in organizations like ServiceNow, Microsoft, Cognizant, and Cifi. And she also advises Aspire for her on innovation and growth strategy. She also serves as a sponsor and portfolio partner with AWE Funds, as I mentioned, an early age VC fund which aims to catalyze women's entrepreneurship. So she's playing a very critical role in women entrepreneurship, not only in India, but I'm pretty sure globally as well. And we are honored to have you here with us, Divya. And of course, thanks, Rika, for organizing this amazing masterclass. And we look forward to it. Divya, we're just going to probably interject in between slightly. There are lots of questions coming in. Otherwise, if you're more comfortable taking them at the end of the session, that is perfectly fine too. So over to you.
That's great. Again, thank you so much, Spurti, Dipshika, Rika, of course, for organizing this, Farisha, and all of the team that supports us. Really great to meet all of you virtually. Looking forward to an exciting and interactive session. I'm sure you've figured out from that very kind introduction that Deepshika said, is that supporting and promoting women entrepreneurs is a subject that is very close to my heart, right? It is something that, certainly, I mean, Rika and I and the team at Aspire for Her are very passionate about entrepreneurs, which is our community of entrepreneurs at Aspire for Her, which is 23,000 strong and growing. It's tough being an entrepreneur, right? As a venture capitalist, as a long-term angel investor in startups, as someone who's worked with startups as a partner, I know how hard it is to start and run a business, right? It's tough. And then on top of that, when you're going out and raising funding to grow and scale your business, that's another order of challenge. When you're starting to explain your business to other people in the outside, and you're trying to find just the right words and the right things to say to get them interested and to get them to agree to fund you. So today's session is going to be, well, we call it a masterclass. We're trying to condense a lot of material into 1 hour. The intent is to give you all practical tips that you can use and apply immediately when you're trying to tell the story of your business, particularly in the context of raising funding, right? But also in the context of running a sustainable business, because fundamentally, you're raising funding for what? In order to keep your business and sustainable and grow it and move successfully towards the future of the business, right? So it is all one picture. We shouldn't look at them as kind of separate separate topics. So with that said, I will, as Deepshika suggested, go through some material. There's some slides which I'll be using as sort of supports for the topics that we'll be talking about. Not to worry, this is intended to be a highly interactive session. So I'll go through the material, and I might go through some of it in a reasonably fast fashion. We're going to have 25 minutes at the end for us to have a really interactive discussion, to discuss real questions and real issues and real challenges that all of you have in terms of putting together your business plan and your pitch decks, right? So that's the intent. And of course, at any point during the conversation, if you'd like to type in a comment or a chat or a question or anything, please feel free to type it in the chat window. I'm not going to necessarily be able to see it, but I will rely on Deepshika and the team to interject when necessary. All right. So Absolutely. Let's get started. Perfect. Thank you. Great. So here's the broad flow of the agenda, right? And I wanted to spend a lot more time on the elements of a business plan, as well as, concluding with pitch deck do's and don'ts, and then having 20 to 25 minutes of Q&A so we can actually talk about applying some of the things we're talking about right here, right? So let's start off with the basics of what is the difference between a business plan and a pitch deck in the first place. Right. So I have a capital focused perspective, because that's the context in which we're having this.
Sorry,
Divya,
Divya, I
discussion
lost
right
you in
now.
between. Yeah.
When you talk to a venture capitalist,
Divya, your connection
is
had
my voice
frozen in
cutting out?
between. Yeah,
Yeah.
right now it's fine.
I
Right now it's fine.
Okay. I do interrupt me if my voice fades out. My apologies. The internet connection has been a little flaky all day. Apparently, there's some power fluctuation issue. But I'll definitely slow down and repeat if anything gets missed out. So do please continue to flag me if you lose me at any point.
Yes, you were explaining the
I'll just
difference
recap
between. Yeah, please.
a business, right? And I want to go back to what I was saying before. I'm answering this question in the context of what a VC understands when you say a startup is presenting a business plan and a pitch deck, right? So there are broader definitions, but for the purpose of this discussion, we're focusing on the venture capitalist definition and what a venture capitalist understands by business plan and pitch deck, right? A business plan is a document that you use both internally and externally to lay out the key elements of how you are going to run your business for the next 3 to 5 years. It has all of the details, right? But there are a few key elements that are a part of every single business plan, no matter what kind of business you are. And we'll talk about those details. When you're trying to explain your story to a VC for the very first time, what is it you do? You take the elements, the key elements from the business plan, and you put it into a pitch deck. A pitch deck is a storytelling tool that helps you to explain your business plan to outsiders. That's the simple definition. That's what VCs understand. Very often, VCs will ask you to submit one or both. When they say a business plan, they mean a longer document. When they say a pitch deck, they mean a summary document that summarizes your business plan. That's the commonly understood definition. I hope that's clear and helpful. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take those later on. All right, so that's the starting point. So let's talk about what the key elements of every business plan are. I am sure that I know that there are some very, very diverse types of businesses, right? No two businesses are necessarily alike. Even those that are doing the same kind of work. I always say no two e-commerce startups are exactly alike. You may both be selling exactly the same thing, but you're not exactly alike, right? So your business plan may have similarities, but will be different to the other person doing the same kind of business. Some of you will be B2B primarily. Some of you will be B2C. Some of you will have a mix of B2B monetization, and some of you will have, B2C monetization. Some of you will be direct to consumer. Some of you will have a much more complex sort of chain of B2B to C. Regardless of what your business model is like, there are certain core elements that are part of every single business plan, right? And let's talk about those logically. The first starting point. What is it that you're offering? What is the product or service, right? And what is the value proposition of your product or service? We're going to spend a little time understanding what a value proposition is. So bookmark that one. That's pretty important. That's the starting point of everything that you do, right? The next element that we typically talk about is what you see on the chart. So, sorry, I jumped a slide there. Apologies. Is it just my screen that's frozen, or is everybody's screen frozen?
No, we can see you.
Is anyone seeing my screen right now?
No.
You can see me. Can you see my screen?
Yes. No. We can't see us.
Okay, bear with me a second. I might need to restart my screen share. Sorry about that.
Problem. No worries. Ladies, in the meantime, if you have any questions already for Divya, please do drop them in the chat box.
Again, apologies for the you've been dropping them in the chat box. That's exactly right. Thank you. All right. I'm resharing. Hopefully the screen is visible again. Right. Okay.
Yes, Divya, we can see it.
All right.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. So what's your value? What's your customer product service value proposition? Who's your target customer? Who are you selling to, right? Who's going to buy your product and pay you money? In the context of you're not the only person typically selling or solving that problem, unless, with very few exceptions. Who are your competitors? So what's your competitive positioning vis-a-vis everybody else who's selling competitive products and services? Fourth, how much money will you make? What are your financials, right? What are your, how does your transaction and your sort of model work? How do you actually charge money? How you make money, and so on and so forth. And finally, what's next? What are you going to do in the next next 3 quarters, next 1 quarter, 3 quarter, 4 quarters, 6 quarters, 3 years, 5 years. And when you're raising funding, it's very, very important to talk, especially about what you're going to be doing in the next 2 years. right? After you've raised money, what are you going to do in the next 2 years? It's a very important conversation that VCs are looking for. So we'll talk about each of these in a little bit of detail as we go through the elements of a business plan. And you may have questions about this, and I'm encouraging you to either type them into the chat window or reserve them for our interactive session at the end. So let's start with what a product service value proposition is. There's a lot of English in the slide, but let me tell you a very simple definition of what the value proposition should be for you, right? Let's say you're meeting someone for the first time and you want to describe your business to them in 1 or 2 sentences at most. What you say to them should ideally be your value proposition. And what that value proposition is should tell them what they really need to understand about your business. When you're crafting a value proposition, now remember that not every single value proposition needs to have every single element of this addressed, but the best ones do tick off all of these boxes. And I'll explain one at a time, right? The first element is, what is it? Why does your product even exist, right? What is it need that you're filling? What is the gap in the market that who will buy this product or service, right? Who is it targeted at? Third, what is the solution for this need that you identified? And you're solving, is it a fundamental problem that you're solving? Ideally in a unique fashion, right? The next element is both features and benefits. And I've deliberately said benefits first and features second, because I often find that businesses tend to emphasize the features of their product or service, and they neglect to talk enough about the benefits that their customer are getting. These two are important elements, but it is equally important to talk about the features, the unique elements, the qualities of your product or service, but much more important to talk about how do those features benefit your customers, right? Why is it that customers are going to pay you money? Because of the benefits. That's why they want to buy your product. So it's important to talk about your benefits and features. You should also talk about advantages. Why should they choose your product or your service over the alternatives that are out there, right? So if you put all of these elements together, what are the needs plus what is the solution you're offering? What are the features and benefits of the solution you're offering and the advantages of your solution? That is equal to your value proposition. So when you're actually putting together your value proposition, and this is something that most startups do struggle with, right? How do I craft my value proposition? This goes through several iterations, but these are the building blocks. So imagine you're meeting me in an elevator for the first time and you know that I'm part of our funds and you're trying to get my interest. What are the 2 sentences that you're going to tell me which capture all of these key points that are going to get my interest and say, hey, this sounds interesting. I want to know more. That's the purpose of crafting a good, solid value proposition, because it's the 2 sentences that tells everyone you meet the most essential things they need to know about your business. So I keep emphasizing this because this is one element that I often see missing in most pitch decks. So trust me, if you've got this in your pitch deck, you're already above 95% of the competition. Most people don't do a good job of this. So if you've cracked this, you're already standing out. So it's kind of a secret shortcut, magic bullet for success. There you go. Secondly, what VCs expect to see in your business plan and in your pitch deck, and it's important for you as well, right? When you're doing your planning, think about your customer target market. Now, this is again something that I see particularly tech startups struggle with, right? Because very often what happens is, and again, I was doing a session yesterday for a group of IIT incubated startups, right? And some fantastic technology ideas, they've all been incubated, they come from labs, they have fantastic technology ideas. But very often they've got a great engineering or a product idea, but they haven't thought about a customer who will be willing to pay them to solve that problem, right? So if you don't have a customer or a customer base identified or a target market identified, and you don't know who's going to pay you for the service, pausing here just in case, because I can see my screen freezing a little bit. Am I still audible?
Yes, Divya, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks, Deepshika. Thanks. Sorry, I'm pausing just to make sure that, you folks are not losing me from time to time. Right. As I was saying, great engineering ideas, great product ideas, but if you haven't identified a group of people who are willing to pay you for that service, a lot of startups fail because of that. So this is an incredibly important element, even if it is something where you're having to do, maybe there's not a lot of publicly available data out there. Maybe you're going to have to do your own research to craft what the market size is and estimate it. And it's entirely possible. It's fine. use a combination of publicly available data, do your own research, estimate the market size. It's important for your own sales and planning, sales and marketing process as well, right? Because you need to figure out how you're actually going to sell, how you're going to reach your customers, how much are you going to make, how much will it cost you to reach your customers, and so on, right? It is important in order to develop your what you call a go-to-market plan. So what is a go-to-market plan? Again, there's a lot of talking points on the slide, but fundamentally, it goes back. One of the simplest ways to explain it to an absolute beginner is, what do people expect from a go-to-market plan, even in the new age? Think about it as the classic 4 Ps of marketing. What's your price? What's your product strategy? What's your pricing strategy? What's your distribution strategy? What's your promotion strategy? Right? It's sorry, I said distribution instead of but that's fundamentally what it means. The 4 Ps are basically those of us who've done MBAs, and even those who have not done MBAs, have probably heard of the 4 Ps of marketing. That's what it's all about. So that's what your go-to-market plan is. You can also look at it in different ways. And I'm quite happy, particularly if you're a services business, for example, you'll probably want to add something like, in lieu of just distribution, you'll want to talk about something like a customer engagement plan, because you're going to have to engage with your customer in constantly, because they're not just experiencing a product once, they're experiencing it in a continuous fashion. So you'll need to have something like a customer engagement plan. But fundamentally, you need to think about this, and you need to summarize it in your business plan and your pitch deck. So let's talk about a few simple examples of what people expect to see in a pitch deck. This is, again, not the nitty-gritty, right? A very simple, understandable way to explain what your target market looks like. And again, you would have heard a lot of things about a total addressable market, serviceable market, target obtainable market, service obtainable market, all of that stuff. Fundamentally, it all means the same thing. There's an Uber market of all of the people who are willing to buy products or services that are in your category. Of that, you're able to service only a subset of that market for various reasons. It could be geographical, it could be the nature of your product, it could be various other constraints. And the last bit is the most critical. How much of the market are you able to directly target? This is where you're actually going to be looking for market share. There's 3 billion at the center. That's the piece where you're actually going to talk about market share. So it's very important to have this information and explain it to your potential investors in a simple and easy to understand way, right? So this is a good example of a slide because it has all of the key bits of information that we're looking for. It doesn't have too much, it doesn't have too little. It's perfect. Another way to do it is this way, right? So have the whole point is, you know a lot about the market. You've done a lot of research with the market. You don't need to you don't need to put everything on the pitch deck slide. You just need to give the basics, and you want to have a conversation. This is a slide where you want to make people saying, okay, this is what do you want the potential investor to remember from the slide? Wow, okay, this looks like a substantial market. These folks seem to have figured out how to chase a substantial portion of this market. And I'm keen to see how they're actually planning to build their market share in this area. That's what you want the venture capital investor to take away from the slide. And that's exactly what you need to give them. The next bit is competitive positioning. We talked about, you're not the only one selling products or services to this market, right? So it is very important to do, first of all, and the reason why I've got a table, an ugly looking table in here, is not because this is what needs to appear on the slide, but this is the analysis you need to do internally to figure out what goes onto the slide, right? So it is extremely important that you do this in great exhaustive detail. And this requires work on your part, on your team's part. It will require you going out and seeking intelligence and doing a very honest analysis. It's very important to talk to customers as well, because customers will tell you what you need to hear in terms of why are they paying for competitors' products? Why are they paying for your products or not paying for your products? What are the areas that they're not satisfied with your products and competitive products? It's extremely important that you do this analysis. And then don't put this table on the slide. It's useful for internal purposes. What you should present is something a lot more simple looking, right? You want to distill down the key elements to something very simple. My company, my product is priced below that of the other. I'm a task management tool company, mine is priced below. It's simple and easy to use. It's affordable versus everybody else in the market. My competitor's company is more expensive. company B and C, it's expensive and it's hard to use. And companies D and E, it's affordable, but it's really hard to use. So you're really making yourself stand out and telling the customer, the investor, what they need to know in terms of competition without, overdoing the point. Or present it, in a graphical format, draw a simple grid, figure out a simple way to convey this information without having reams of XY, particularly with tech products. And I'll say this again because I was speaking to the IIT folks yesterday. They have these tables and tables of, hard to read slide with lots of technical features, which make absolutely no sense to the layperson, right? Okay, there may be a difference in the technical feature, but I don't know what in practical terms it means to a customer. So there's no point in putting all of that information into the slide. You just want to distill it down. Of course, you have all of that information, and you have a follow-up conversation. People will ask you, probing questions, and you'll be ready to answer them. But that's not what you want to put on the slide, right? The next element is fundamentally, what's your business model and financial projections? So fundamentally, what is business model? What are your products and revenue streams? How do you price? How much will you earn? How will you get profitable, right? How will you sell to your various customer channels? What do you need to include in the key financials in the deck? You need to include, again, fundamentally just 3 elements that people are looking for, and not all of them are necessary to be in the pitch deck. But if you have to put in financials, these are the things that you want to put in. You want to put in your revenue projections and your profitability projections. You want to put in your cash flow, and you want to put it in for 3 to 5 years. I would actually even say that if I don't see the cash flow in an initial pitch deck, I personally do not care, because that is something that I will look for later on. I do want to see revenues, and I do want to see path to profitability, and I want to see it for 3 to 5 years. And I want to see key assumptions. What are the key assumptions you've made in doing these projections? Because as every startup entrepreneur knows, the first 3 to 5 years in a business are extremely dynamic, right? There are lots of variables. So we're not going to hold you to these numbers, and you're not a publicly listed company. Shareholders are not going to hold you accountable on the quarterly earnings call saying, this was your quarterly target, have we met it or not? After we invested, we will hold you accountable to certain milestones. But for this forecast, all we're looking for is, okay, they've been thoughtful about this. They've made some good assumptions, and the assumptions seem to support the revenue projections that they put in. That's all we're really looking for. Don't feel like you have to boil the ocean to do this, right? The other thing that I often find people miss out on is operational metrics. It's not just important to put financial numbers in. You also should put in some metrics numbers, depending on the kind of business. If you're a B2C, particularly if you're a B2C online business, then you definitely want to have customer metrics, right? But regardless of what kind of business you're in, you should include some of your key business KPIs, and you should, if possible, talk about your unit economics, mention some of you will be asked about expenses and how you're spending money. So have that information ready. Again, not all of this necessarily needs to be in the slide, but you need to have this information handy, because these are typically questions that you will get from VCs, right? Again, I'm emphasizing this in terms of what to show. Please use charts and graphs. Do not cram don't copy paste a table from Excel onto your slide. It's hard to read, and 2, it's really hard to explain. And believe me, the stress of the moment, the hardest thing to do is actually for you to be peering at an Excel sheet saying, okay, what was column D and row 3 supposed to actually be? You don't want to do that. You want to have a simplified version. Do make it realistic and accurate. Don't buy into the hype of saying people want to see spectacular growth numbers, so I feel forced to put in spectacular growth numbers. And you do need to show data over time. So I don't want to see information that's just relevant for today or for 6 months of this year. I want to see data for the next 3 to 5 years. So good examples of how to do this. Business model, again, really simplify, right? Have a simple graphical depiction of how this works, of the money that you make, how much of the total revenue goes to your channel, how much of the money comes to you, explain the percentages. It should be a simple graphical depiction that makes it easy for you to explain in 1 minute what your revenue model looks like. How do you actually charge customers and make money? This is a good example because it's very simplified. Again, when you're depicting financials, something like this is what VCs want to see in the pitch deck. The detail, believe me, we will want to look at the Excel sheets. But during the pitch deck, when you have a finite amount of time, this version is what we want to see. We don't want to see the detailed Excel spreadsheet in your pitch deck. This is also fine. I mean, if you're going to do a 3-year financial projection, you can have a simplified table. This is actually very close to what is probably in your Excel. It's fine. It's a simplified, easy to read version. It's taking up too much space. It's got the key elements. It also highlights the key expense lines. It's fine, right? So it's perfectly fine. It doesn't have to look fancy. It doesn't have to be graphically, super, but include all of the key elements people are looking for, right? Finally, what happens, the last segment in your business plan, and therefore what will go into your pitch deck, is what is your operating plan? What are you going to do in the next 6 months? What are you going to do in the next 1 year? What are you going to do in the next 2 years? Once you've raised money, right? You've got your funding requirement. Let's say you're raising 5 crores. How are you going to spend that 5 crores? What are you going to do? What's the benefit to what are the things that you're going to invest in that are going to improve the success of your business? How? You really do need to explain this. And it's usually insufficient to, it's fine to have a slide that says, okay, I'm spending X amount in 2 years on sales and marketing, X amount on hiring talent, X amount on R&D, whatever, it's fine. But this is an area that, again, if you really want to stand out, what you also want to say is, by spending that money, what is the impact to your business on the slide? So for example, if you say that we'll raise 5 crores and off that, we're going to be spending 2 crores on marketing. And this will help us, rather than we're currently growing at a rate of 50% per year. With the increased use of money, we're anticipating we'll be able to double our business every year. If you have that information on the slide, that is something that investors really, really value. So you've not just thought through how you're going to spend the money, you've thought about what's the benefit to the business of spending that additional money, right? So that is something that will make you stand out, believe me. Sorry, I skipped ahead. Everything else that needs to be in the slide, your founding team, your full team, your product roadmap, all of the other stuff that you put together as part of your pitch deck needs to be added to this. Why have I actually said everything else in this kind of Uber category, right? It's because ultimately, these parts are table, everything else part are table stakes. We expect to have that information. It is fundamental due diligence. Your founder could be someone super unique, or with us, someone who has a fantastic expertise in that domain space, in which case, by all means, call that out and highlight it, not a problem. You may have some unique IP, you may have 6 patents that nobody else has, that's fine, you might want to highlight that. But these are not, for most businesses, these are not the differentiating elements. So people make a mistake of actually spending too many slides and too much time talking about this stuff without necessarily talking about the benefits to the business or benefits to the customer of all of that good stuff, right? So examples of simplified ways to do this. You can talk about your growth strategy. You can talk about a 2-year action plan in a very simplified fashion, talking about key milestones. What are you going to do from now until let's say this is a really early stage business that is pre-seed, right? It's conceptualizing its business. This kind of shows what you're actually looking to do in the next couple of years. And that's perfectly fine. You can put it in the form of a horizon roadmap. You can say that, okay, now we're going to do this. In the next 1 year, we're going to do this. In the next 2 years, we're going to do this. That's completely fine. You can show it this way. These are all just, I mean, I'm not prescribing any one of these. These are just simplified ideas for you to present your what's next plan. And let's finally talk about, before we get into the interactive discussion, some do's and don'ts. Again, this is not the first time you will have heard this in bits that I really, really want you to apply when you're putting together your pitch deck. Keep it simple. I can't say this enough. The purpose of your pitch deck is not to get a VC's yes from seeing your pitch deck. That never happens. Trust me. It doesn't look like it happens on Shark Tank. Somebody makes a winning presentation and a bunch of investors say, yeah, we're going to give you 2 crores. It doesn't work like that. What you want from your pitch deck is to say, hey, these folks sound like they have a really interesting approach. I feel like we should find out more about them and have an in-depth conversation. That's the outcome you want from your pitch deck, right? Whether you're emailing it or presenting it, that's the only outcome. You want to have a follow-up conversation with an investor. So keep it simple, just the elements. Don't feel like you have to cram in the encyclopedia Britannica into the pitch deck and into your business plan, whatever you're sending, right? Secondly, tell the story of your business, right? Don't forget to do that. You're very close to the business. So, it's very easy to kind of assume that, again, pausing. Hopefully the sound isn't dropping or anything. Sound okay? Everyone
Yep.
hearing me all right?
Yeah,
Yes,
the
in between.
yeah,
but
all good.
yeah. Once in a while there is a crack.
Yeah.
okay. But again, Deepshika, Spurti, the other folks on the call, please do pipe up if if it's okay to lose one word once in a while, but if you're losing the sense of what I'm saying, please, speak up and let me know that I need to repeat something.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It was just one word, Divya. Don't worry. We will.
Wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. So first of all, tell stories. Human beings emotionally connect to stories, right? You want to get a bunch of strangers who may know nothing about yourself and your business and your products, and you want to get them excited about this idea of finding out more. The best way to do that is to tell stories. Tell the story of your business, and ideally tell the stories of your customers who are buying your products, or the customers for whom you're looking to solve the problem. Those are human impact stories that resonate. Don't forget to do this. It's not just about the facts and figures. VCs are human beings too. They're also looking for emotional connection, right? And this sounds very obvious, but keep your deck current, particularly when you're a startup. Things about your business are changing every month, every quarter. I know that a lot of stuff changes, but as a VC, nothing makes us lose interest faster than somebody sending an older deck, which is out of date, clearly. And this is very obvious in what fashion. You'll find that the financials are 2 quarters old. You'll find, data that's obviously dated from the previous fiscal year. You will need to update your pitch deck from time to time, but please make sure that the data is current. If you can't be bothered to send an up-to-date current pitch deck to a VC, then why will they spend the time to actually get to know your business and see if you're worth investing in? This is fundamental. So it's something that a lot of people miss out on. I know it takes time, right? It's a pain to have to keep updating your deck, but it's essential. Please don't skip out on that. In terms of don'ts, we've talked about this. Please don't overload. For one thing, I don't want to see a slide that looks like this one. The one that I'm currently showing you should not have. On your pitch deck
we
at
lost
all.
that sentence.
This is a terrible slide for a. It's
sorry, Divya.
got
Could
it.
you
Let me
repeat that
repeat.
for us? Yeah, thank you.
I will, absolutely, because it's extremely important. I don't want to see a slide that looks like the one I'm currently showing you in your pitch deck. This may be a fine slide for our session because there's a lot of information I'm trying to share with you. But when you are doing a pitch deck, if you have a slide that looks like this, overloaded with text and bullet points, trust me, you've lost the audience after the first couple of minutes. This is not a slide that you want to put on any of your pitch decks. So, definitely don't follow this example of, and nothing in your slide deck should look like this, right? Make sure that you have clean, easy to read. If I'm looking at your slide for the first time, it shouldn't take me more than a minute to read through everything that is on a single slide, which means that you need to have a maximum of 5 to 7 bullet points. If you have bullet points at all, you need to have as many graphics and visuals as possible. Try and use large fonts, use images wherever possible. Do not, overload a slide with text the way that I've done here. Secondly, this is something that VCs, particularly now in today's funding climate, are very worried about. Do not overstate the market opportunity. Don't try to hype. Don't try to overhype. Don't try to be over optimistic. And fundamentally, we want to see some realism to your business forecasts. We don't want to say, okay, there's a 50 billion market opportunity and our goal is to have a 10% market share in 10 years. What we want to see is a more realistic ground up. Okay, I have 10 customers today. I'm looking to grow to 100 customers in the next 2 years, and this is how we'll do it. And this will result in a revenue and a market share of XYZ. That's what VCs want to see, not, if we were just able to even get 1% of a $1 billion market, that'll be fantastic. Yeah, but that's not good enough. So tell the story in a realistic fashion. Do not oversell. People get very, very skeptical about very overhyped and over-optimistic forecasts and plans. So this may sound counterintuitive, particularly because for a few years it's been kind of the trend to really inflate numbers and market potential and so on and so forth. But the tide is changing. And in today's investment climate, there is the people value more realistic estimates. So I'm not saying don't be optimistic, but don't overhype. So find that balance. And secondly, don't ignore key risks, right? You're a startup, you're in a risky business. VCs are actually risk capital. We understand there are risks. What we want to know is that you're anticipating those risks and that you have some potential plans to work around, right? Don't say there's no risks. That's something that nobody will believe, right? So, for example, I'll give you one example. If somebody says that, okay, look, this is a great idea, but what if somebody else enters the market in 6 months with the same product or a similar product? What's your strategy going to be? Think through what your answer, not a believable answer. You need to have a thought through way to answer that question, because realistically, what can you do? Somebody else decides to come in with a similar product or service. It's a real world problem that you're going to have to face.
We lost
So
you
don't-
right now. Okay. Yeah. We can hear you now.
So look at addressing some of the questions.
Sorry,
Okay.
is there any additional part
Can
of
you
the
share a
presentation?
video on the pitch?
Okay.
No, this is all in terms of material. Of course, the slides will be shared with you. Dipshika, feel free to send the slides to everyone. That's the reason that it's so information heavy, because I wanted it to be a good sort of ready reckoner for the folks to refer to as they're putting together the pitch deck. But let's now look at let's talk about applying some of these things. But most of you have started working on your pitch decks already. Most of you have your business plans in place. Let's talk about real and actual challenges that you're having and how do we address those. Cool.
So should we go?
So I'm going to go top down. Yeah. I'm just looking at the chat window now. So I can see Sheetal has put in a question. I noticed that there are a couple of comments about not being able to hear anything, and I apologize for that, for the technical difficulties. I hope if there was any segment that you really missed hearing and you want me to repeat it now, by all means, feel free to either unmute yourself and ask or type that into the chat window as well. But I'll go through the chat window and try and address each of these questions. Okay. This is a great question, Sheetal. As a successful home baker for millet cookies, now looking for a B2B market, what should be the key element to pitch it? Great. So, Sheetal, if you don't mind, would you mind unmuting yourself so we can ask a couple of questions and understand your situation a little bit better?
Hi.
Are you okay to unmute yourself, Sheetal?
Yeah,
Hi.
yeah.
I can see you.
Hi.
Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So you're now looking for a B2B market. And so what does that mean? So when you say B2B, who are your B2B customers?
B2B customers are the retail markets who are already into selling of confectionaries.
Okay.
And
So give me an
like
example of who would be.
example, like in like I stay in Aurangabad. In Aurangabad, we have 2-3 retail shops which are very famous. Like they keep all the brands, all the big brands, and so I'm really looking forward to pitch them in B2B way, like selling them in wholesale, and then they'll be doing the repacking thing. That thing, and another
Right.
is for the hotels, for their conferences, for their weddings, for their business meets. So right now, like ITC Rama, they serve mostly millet-based cookies for their delegates. So I'm really looking forward for that
Got it.
B2B market.
Okay. So so that's great. So if I understand you correctly, you're looking at two primary segments. You're looking at retail stores which sell directly to consumers, and you're looking at what we call the HoReCa segment, right? Which is the
Yeah.
hotel, restaurants, and catering segment
Yes.
to buy your products from. Great question. The first point to start with is, remember what I said when I kind of went back and say, what is the customer need that you're solving? So when you actually look at retail stores, what are they looking for? Let's think about, why would they want to stock your millet cookies on the shelf? One, because their customers want to purchase millet cookies, right?
Yeah, because
do they have
customers who are health free.
Right, correct. So these folks are looking
Yeah.
to attract health conscious customers to the retail store,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And are there other folks also selling the millet cookies?
Sir, can you please repeat?
Are there other folks also Cookies?
Yeah, for the moms who really
Okay,
like,
let me
who want their kids like for their in between hunger, between their meals when they are going to school, when they are back. So for that in between hunger, they should go for these cookies. Healthy, it's like a healthy snacking option.
right. So totally agree. Now I get that. Now these retail customers, or let's take ITC, which is the hotel example that you gave.
Yeah.
Are there other people also trying to sell them millet cookies? There are. So what's your
Yeah.
unique differentiation? Why are you different and better than these other?
Yeah, because they are freshly home baked, they are preservative
You don't,
free.
okay, again, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, right? But put yourself in the shoes of your customers. Think that you're ITC trying to purchase cookies. What are the things that are going to make me pick sheep cookies over this other vendor's cookies? That would make me choose Sheetal cookies versus everybody else's cookies. That is not something that you need to answer on this call. But when you say what is the key element to pitch, it's the question you need to answer first, right? This may require a little bit of thinking through on your products. It won't be as cheaper. There may be other, they may be better packaged, they may be fresher, you're able to supply them at
Yeah.
shorter notice, they are better quality, more flavors available than the alternative. There could be various other things that you're looking for that are differentiated and meaningful to your customers, right?
Yeah.
So the key element to pitch always starts with what is the customer need you're trying to solve? What
Okay.
are they looking for?
Okay.
That's what we pitch. So hopefully you'll be able to get started thinking about this. Once you've given it some thought, you'll be able to answer that question. Great.
Sure.
Moving on to the next one, Sheetal. Hopefully that was useful, and I'm hoping that that it's getting you started on the thread of how to answer the question. Right.
Thank you.
Next one. So Surbhi. Thank you, Sheetal. Sorry to kind of make you unmute yourself, and I wasn't trying to put you on the spot, but it is important to kind of have that conversation, right? Great. So Surbhi says, for a small startup, while we've been around for 3 years, we've been operational via Instagram and no formal money has been spent on customer acquisition. That's the next plan to expand. How to address that? Great. Once again, Surbhi, would you mind unmuting yourself? Are you in a position where you could do that?
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Divya ma'am. This was really helpful. Nice to be connecting, and hello everyone else too.
Great. So Surbhi, tell me a little bit about your business. What kind of startup do you have?
Sure. So my mom and I, we both co-run a brand called Licks and Crunch. We make gourmet dog treats, which are grain-free, gluten-free, and preservative-free. We are especially targeting this sort of new growing field of pet humanization, where pet parents have become conscious of what they are feeding their pets. Pet parents have also become conscious of that the market stored sort of these off-the-shelf cookies are actually fairly filled with preservatives, and we're also addressing that the current options available in the market are not grain-free and not gluten-free, so they aren't species appropriate, while our treats are.
Okay, so Surbhi, great. It sounds like you have a very good thought through in terms of how your products are differentiated. The question specifically is around how do you actually, meaningfully spend money on customer acquisition. My suggestion to you, and to do a little bit of homework on this, start online. Look at targeted advertising. You'll need to spend a little bit, but performance marketing is a good solution to start with. Look at online dog groups on Facebook, on Instagram. And again, Facebook has a great setup on both Insta and Facebook to actually help you connect to groups and actually look at relevant things. So performance marketing is a good way to start, but also look at offline alternatives, but particularly if for small startups like yours, just becoming more successful and more well-known in your local city and your local area is a good way to start. I mean, I'm sure you're already connected to the local kennel shows and the local, dog shows, etc. Don't neglect those as you're looking to acquire customers. Those are often, more cost effective than actually spending loads of money on doing splashy online ads.
Right.
Perfect.
So just to follow on that though, like for example, like let's say if I were to show my current expenses, we don't have these sort of bigger expenses because we are now trying to expand and enter the bigger market, right? So my profit margin right now is significantly higher than what I'm expecting it to be as I scale. So when we give realistic projections about that, it's okay to say stuff like that. Right now we've just been sort of going off of word of mouth, and that has sort of played really well for us. But going forward, we do expect our profit margins to reduce. However, we are also aiming to scale and aim for a bigger audience to make up for that percentage loss, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah. So fundamentally, let me answer this from what I would want as an investor to see in your deck, right? Because that's the focus of today's conversation.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
expect you to put into the deck is to show how much you're expecting to grow your business by spending more money on marketing, the impact that it's having in terms of but what I'm interested in is two things: your volume growth, which will also increase your absolute profits, right? The actual rupees that you're making, both in terms of revenue and your potential gross margin, will go up as you sell more volumes. And that will actually increase over time. Once you've got more market share, your profit margins will gradually increase as well. Yes, when you start spending money, it will impact your margins in the short term, but it is a part of growth for every business. So that's what I expect to see in your business. What is the impact, right?
Okay, great.
And therefore, in 5 years' time, how much more will you be doing? And that's what I'm expecting to see. Great. I can see some hands up. I'm going to go down the chat window and answer as many of those questions, and then we'll get around to also addressing the folks who've got their hands up. Anchal has sorry, I think I skipped over one. Surbhi, again, those really expensive market reports to learn more about the market. I don't have any magical shortcuts, and I would say that as a startup, you should actually not look at unnecessarily spending money. Try and rely on publicly available information as much as possible. If you know somebody who's working for, if you have a friend who's like a marketing manager in a pet food manufacturing company, see if you can kind of, as a friend, request some data, but there's no shortcut. So, but yeah, be frugal and don't unnecessarily spend money if you don't have it, right? When you do market research so again, sorry, I don't know why the chat window is jumping up and down. Sorry, Priya, I seem to have skipped over your question. How do you get verified data for this? The short answer is, if you can't afford to pay for the really expensive market research, rely on your own estimates, rely on a combination of, this is a question, which is why I explicitly said in my slide as well, use publicly available data, do your own research to supplement it. Do not, at this stage, don't think that you have the marketing budget of a Procter & Gamble or a Levers or, an established FMCG company to go and spend on market research. You don't. That's the reality. And no one in the VC world is expecting you to have it either, right? There's a certain amount of money you can spend on market research if it's really critical for your business. But again, look, you're all sensible entrepreneurs. I know you can draw the balance between how much money to spend on market research and how much not. But again, don't get wedded too much, because again, VCs are not looking for you to have they're not expecting you to have full-fledged market research teams. So nobody's expecting you to have a gold standard data, but it should line up with what's publicly available, right? If I'm doing a Google search and the data that I'm getting is contradicting what you have on your slide, I'm going to have questions about it. That's the short answer. Question entirely off the deck from Anchal, which is great. I love it. The real challenge lies in saying it out loud. Yep. How to tackle the nerves and stay confident while presenting. I'll say two things here. I don't have a magical answer. Even I get nervous when speaking in public, especially, when I'm speaking on a very large stage and there are spotlights glaring on me, that kind of situation. So a few things. One is really be well rehearsed in terms of your material, right? Which means practice delivering your pitch, so that even when you're nervous, on autopilot, the words will come out of your mouth, regardless of the butterflies in your stomach. That's number one. Number two, really keep the message very simple. Remember, the purpose of this conversation is for people to understand your business. You're trying to introduce your business to them. Think about it this way. The key things that you're trying to tell them is you've run into somebody at a friend's dinner party, and they're asking you what you do for a living, and you're trying to explain your business to them, right? Try to explain it in that same tone of voice, in a relaxed fashion, where you're genuinely trying to get them to understand what you do. Think about it as you're trying to convey information about the business. So don't feel like, the VCs or your investors or your audience are the sort of lofty human beings who are like, I don't know, in some different category altogether. They're just a bunch of strangers whom you're trying to explain your business to. Those are the two things that I will say, but unfortunately, I have no magic bullet solution to solve stage fright or, deep breathing helps. I definitely do I do that classic old fashioned thing of if I'm getting really nervous before a speech, I'll take a paper bag and blow into it. So I get my breathing regulated, but I have nothing unique to offer beyond that, I'm afraid, in terms of addressing nervousness in terms of delivering. Can you share a video on the pitch deck? Yes, you can, but you need to be really, really thoughtful about what is the purpose of that video. When you're delivering a pitch, the video is disrupting your flow. So unless it is telling an essential part of your story. So for example, if it's a video of a demo of your product in action, and it's a complex product and it's the easiest way to explain how your product or service works, then I would say, yeah, definitely include a video. If you're including a super impactful 30-second customer testimonial video, I would say, yeah, maybe that's something that's worth including. If it is otherwise, no matter how fantastically produced your video is, it doesn't necessarily need to be in your pitch deck. So the answer is both yes, you can, but really think through whether you want to disrupt the flow of your entire presentation just to put in a video. 99% of the time, it's not a good idea to put a video in the pitch deck. So that's the answer. Does creativity get brownie points? Creativity always gets brownie points at the introductory stage. So for example, when you're trying to get a VC's attention, it's a very good idea to have a really punchy 2-minute video that introduces your business. So it grabs attention, right? Creativity also makes a difference when you're presenting your deck, the way you present your deck. I've seen some decks that just do a fantastic job of presenting the value proposition. You feel like within the first 1 minute, they've really grabbed your attention and you want to hear more about this and you're fully engaged throughout the duration of the pitch deck. So yes, it makes a difference. But is it enough? You can be hugely entertained by the presentation, but at the end of the day, come away thinking, okay, that was fun, but I don't really care about this business. I'll give the example of Shark Tank because they're not here. You remember that thing where the whole audience, I think it was in season 1, I remember that episode because I still see it. I still have memories of that. But they were really engaged with this achar making lady, and all of them went out and basically, tried her achar, every single one of them, and they were raving about it. And at the end of the day, not a single one of them invested in it. So creativity is like that. You can grab attention, you can get engagement, but it's not enough. It's great to have, it's a great plus, but it's not the be all and end all of it, right? Great. You're definitely going to get the entire slide with all of the financial pages and everything, Shilpanjani. So not to worry, you will absolutely get all of the slides, and there's not a problem. In terms of value proposition, should we emphasize the problem you're solving or our personal connect with what the problem is we're trying to solve? I would say both, in the sense that the more important thing from a VC's perspective is the problem such an important problem? Is it something that people will really over time pay money to solve? That's what the investor is looking at, right? But it's also, we want to know, why is the founder so passionate about solving this problem? So if you have an impactful story to tell as a supporting message, that's great. So I would say that it's fine to include that, but the cold hard truth is, as an investor, what are you looking for? Is this problem worth solving from a financial perspective? As an investor, that's what I'm looking for, right? Because at the end of the day, I want to invest in a business that is going to be successful and that is going to give me financial returns on my money. 99% of VCs okay, I'll kind of leave out the venture philanthropists and the social investors and all of that. But at the end of the day, even they are looking for returns, right? So, so I would say not just the problem that you're solving, but how are you solving it in a unique and different way and adding value? So that's the part that you should emphasize. I would love to see why you personally, as the founding team, are passionate about solving that problem. That's good additional information to have, for sure. Ranjani has said, I'm just taking a quick look at the clock. Deepshika, am I okay to keep going for a couple of minutes? I know we have only 2 minutes left on the session, but are we okay to overrun by a bit?
Sure.
All right. So we'll keep going for a few extra minutes. So I want to make sure I address as many questions as possible. Estimate of revenue forecast. Okay, this is a whole separate question. Ranjani, I am very sorry, but we won't be able to answer this question in the depth that it deserves on today's call. But I do feel like I'll say I'll give you three simple tips, right? From a revenue perspective.
Sure, ma'am.
You're already in stage of revenue making. So think about three things. One is, what are the products that I'm going to be selling that I'm able
Okay.
to manufacture and sell next, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years time? Who are the customers that I think I can sell to, right? And at what average price can I sell? Come
Sorry, ma'am, we lost your voice.
Yep. We can't hear you, Divya.
for stationery is this much and work backwards. That's a very daunting way to start. Start from your business, your sales model, and work up. And you can then, start looking at, okay, in my market, in the state, so many stationery products were sold, or this is the amount that was spent on stationery products by my target customers in the last 5 years. All of that data can support your projections, but start from the ground up. That's the simpler way to do it.
Okay. Thank
But
you.
again, that's a very short answer, and it's a deep question, and unfortunately, we won't have the time to answer it in the real detail that it deserves. Dr. Richa has said that she's a gynecologist. How are you going to reach more potential customers who are 20 to 38-year-old working women? Meta ads did not work very well for me. Again, I feel like this is a question for which we won't be able to come up with a proper answer on the duration of the call, right? The one thing that I will say is that I have seen a lot of similar businesses to yours, which are actually doing supportive health services, successfully drive this through partner models, right? So there are service providers in the market who are providing adjacent services to what you do. And maybe one of the cheapest and easiest ways is to tie up with them to expand your market without spending too much money initially. And it could just be maybe tying up with a few cities. You don't have to obviously solve the problem pan-India to start with, but pick a good market and pick a couple of partners, and that would be my first step for you to get some traction and then get some ideas on how do you expand from there. Tanya asked about from Wise Food, finding market size, any credible source where we can get data. Same answer here. There is credible data. Most of the market research, though, has to be paid for. So a simple Google search will give you, or Statista search will give you publicly available information. For your initial pitch deck, that's more than good enough. When you can afford it, I do encourage people to spend money as part of your marketing budget on market research. But if you're really at the startup stage, you probably don't have the money to do this. So pragmatically, use publicly available data would be my initial answer, Tanya. Just be realistic about it. The kind of VCs and investors who would be interested in investing in a mental well-being app. Great question, Tara, because it also highlights something that I encourage people to do, which they don't do enough, to do your homework. When you're looking at customers, you don't just go and basically stand in the marketplace and say, who wants this product, right? You don't just shout at all and sundry. You do some targeting. You go to where your likely customers are likely to be. So do some research on the VCs as well. Most VCs have a robust online presence on LinkedIn as well as their own website. Keyword search is great on LinkedIn, for example, or Crunchbase. Just go do a search on the keywords of VC mental well-being. You'll see the kind of VCs who've actually targeted that as a space. And I would actually say that because it's a mental well-being, I don't know enough about the stage of your business, but I'm guessing you're very early stage. So Tara, I would say start with connected angels, right? You will have people who are well-to-do investors who have a stake in investing in mental well-being. This might be even HNIs who actually have a record of charitably donating to that cause, right? So and these folks tend to be very well networked. So if you manage to get a HNI as an angel investor who's very interested in the topic of mental well-being, not only do you get the benefit of convincing them to invest in your money, which hopefully you do, but they also get to connect you to other likely sources of funding, and it adds credibility to your startup. So I would actually say that, okay, I've given you a lot of words. Let's condense it down to two things. One, do your homework. Don't just have a spray and pray approach. Do research. And not everybody's money is necessarily good for you, right? So whoever's investing in your money at an early stage, you're going to have a long-term relationship with them. So make sure that you're picking your investors as well, right? Secondly, definitely for niche products like mental well-being, which have a little bit of a social angle, look at people who have a personal interest or alignment to that kind of space, to be some of your anchor investors, or if at least get them onto, see if you can get some of them interested in being your mentors or advisors. That's also a good start, because they can also connect you to sources of, they can connect you to potential customers, and they can connect you to sources of funding as well. Rika has an answer for that. So Rika, you have an answer for that?
No, that is something I had talked about in that question about nervousness. The answer for that, is that is really coming from my years of television anchoring and being in front of the camera. An exercise that I personally do, and I ask a lot of people who ask me to do, is a month before you think that you're going to be pitching, if you have a mirror in your room, look at the mirror, talk to yourself. Because if you challenge yourself, that's the best exercise. No one can challenge yourself more than you yourself. So speaking to you in front of a camera, or in front of a mirror, works the best, I would say. And that's also a way to build confidence. That's the answer I can have about speaking in front of public and not being nervous. That's the only way to get over nervousness. You will never be nervous if you can speak to yourself, look at yourself and speak to yourself.
What a great tip. And again, coming from someone with, absolutely years of being in front of a television camera and interviewing every celebrity under the sun, can't think of a better source for tips than that. So ladies, that's something that we should all take away. I'm certainly, Rika, I'm going to borrow that from you. Speak into the mirror and, see if I can.
Thank you so much for coming forward and sharing it though. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, if anyone who's starting out today can speak at least 10 minutes a day and take it up as an exercise, because we often don't think that we are challenging ourselves, and that's the biggest battle that we are fighting. So if we challenge ourselves, we are more often than not going out and winning it.
Absolutely. And practice goes a long way, right? If you've been delivering the pitch 3 times a day, every day for 2 months, trust me, you're going to be able to deliver that pitch in your sleep, even if you're like, totally nervous. It's going to be coming out on autopilot. So there's no substitute for that.
And when it comes to content, all of you are King Kong of content. You know your business like no one knows it. Since you know the content, and content is the king, delivery comes naturally when you practice it a little bit, and practicing in front of a mirror is a great way.
Fantastic. Yep. I feel like this Moringa question is, again, rather complex. So, Sai Krishna, it's, I'm not sure we can come up with a specific answer for you.
Maybe, Divya, what we could do is we could compile these questions and send them over to you offline.
Yeah,
you can take a look at
some of, yes, that would be helpful, Deepshika. Some of these questions I think we will need to address offline, because they also seem to require more time to actually answer them. The next question is a really interesting one. Prerna has asked about having a larger business, and she's asked about 3 main tools for us to use your target group. Tools that lead to better customer acquisition and conversion. Again, really interesting question. And should we be looking at investment for building furniture stores? I feel like there's not a simple short answer to this one either. So requires a little bit of thinking. So Dipshika, I'm going to request that we put all of the questions in the chat box into sort of a document, and we'll look at providing sort of deeper answers to some of these. The next two seems to be fairly niche in terms of sustainable interiors, investment for building. So that's Prerna's question, sorry. Okay, Surbi, okay, thank you. Thanks for the compliments. Changes those. Okay, this is a great question. Apurva's question is, after funding, if your business needs need to pivot, do the VCs back out or hold you to it? If the short answer is, if you need to pivot in order to continue to keep your business growing and successful, or make your business more profitable, by all means pivot. Sensible VCs will agree with it. I mean, if you're kind of stuck in the same sort of space, look, there are different reasons to pivot, right? I mean, if you're pivoting for bad reasons, then the VC is going to say, what the hell are you doing? If it's going to look like, oh, you know what, this is too hard. And, my marketing manager has quit. And this is a real example I'm giving. One of the angel invested companies that we were looking at, saying my key marketing manager has quit. So I feel like this is not a segment we're going to do. So we're going to take a step back and do an entirely new product, which we'll be selling B2B instead of B2C, which was our original plan, which understandably basically made the investors lose all confidence in this particular company. So there are good reasons to pivot and bad reasons to pivot. But if you have good reasons to pivot and fundamentally to keep your business growing, to keep your business alive, to address new competitive realities that are emerging, by all means pivot. Smart VCs will support. Every single major unicorn that you hear about has pivoted at least once or twice in the early stage, in the first 5 years of the business. So not one of them has not pivoted. So great. So I think from a questions perspective, we've addressed everything in chat. I can still see folks with their hands up. Kirti, I know you've not had a chance to ask something in the chat window. So would you like to unmute yourself and ask a question?
Yes. Thank you, Divya, for your great time you have taken out. And for me, it is very helpful because right now I'm in a situation where out of 10 calls in a day, I get 8 calls of having a pitch deck prepared. So for me, I am from an wastewater treatment industry. Like I have a product which is Omni Water Reclaimer. So you feed any wastewater, you will get a treated water, which can be used back to a primary resource. So right now, in very soon, we will be collaborating with one of the company which is into sales and marketing only. And now, as I said, we are a startup of like 6 years thing. So now we are also looking for a business vertical, sales and services. So my first question will be how what are the points to actually think of when we are collaborating with such entities who are into the market since long time and they have a very good network.
So if they are going to be a primary, so Kirti, I want to take a step back. One is, if you've been around for 6 years, you're very early stage startup. So I'm sure that your business has kind of grown. Pandemic must have been challenging. You had to go through and rebuild your business, all of that stuff. 2 things I want to say to you before we address the question about your partnership and how you approach it. One is, please take advantage of government grants, because wastewater treatment is a very sort of hot topic, both at the state and national level. There are a number of grants available. Secondly, you may find it beneficial to sign up for some of these specific climate-focused incubator programs, because they also get you access to not just potentially money, but it also gets you access to a lot of potential customers who may be interested in buying your products and services. So those are 2 things I want to say to you, independent of that marketing and sales company partnership element. I feel like on the marketing and sales perspective, see, partnership is very important in terms of the thing that you always need to remember is, what is the purpose of the partnership from your perspective? What will you get out of it? Are you getting to reach new customers? Are you getting to make more sales? Are you getting to, grow your business, get more profits? What is it they are looking for, right? Why are they partnering with you? What are the benefits they get from working with you? There is no one size fits all answer for this one, but how you work with them will entirely depend on, one, what you need to get out of the relationship and what they need to get out of the relationship, right? That's the short answer. It's a much shorter answer than you deserve because it's a complex question that requires a more detailed solution.
Okay.
But fundamentals.
Yeah. Recently, we have received a IREC grant for our product. So as you said, I should look for more grants and things. My second question would be, in a pitch deck, should the founders talk should also be there, or it should be like in a one tone?
I didn't understand the question, Kirti. Say it again. Maybe explain a bit.
In a pitch deck of 30 second or 60 second, the founders talk should also be there to make it more more attractive, or it should be in a one tone, like it should not be switching off with the real talk, and then switching on to the slides again. But there should be a background audio.
So just say, look, when you are okay, there are two contexts that I can possibly infer from this. One is you're actually sending a pitch video, right? You're doing your pitch deck and you're sending it as a video to somebody. The way you deliver it, there are different approaches and they can all work. If you're delivering it live, I will just say there is no alternative. The pitch deck is being delivered by the founder. So there is no way to separate the founder's talk and the founder's voice from the delivery of the pitch deck. If you're talking about a video, it's perfectly fine. If you're more comfortable and if you want to have it professionally narrated, that's completely fine. That's because it's an introductory video, have it professionally produced, and it's okay. But in a live context, there is no getting away from the founder's talk element. That's
and third thing is, do you have like pitch deck samples or templates? Any
okay. After, when in response to everyone's questions, we'll send a couple of links to commonly available templates which are out there. There are some simple ones that you can do. Sure.
Okay.
All right. Okay,
Yeah,
so
fantastic.
let's move on. I think last, we really are over time. Can I take one more
Yeah.
question, or should we?
Okay. Maybe we can compile the questions and send them over to you. Don't worry, ladies. We will send your questions over to Divya. And this has been a fantastic session for, I think, everyone. It's been an eye-opener, to be honest, Divya. Thank you so much also for taking all the questions from the ladies and answering them and giving us more practical examples of what we can do. Can I request everyone, please switch on the cameras. We would love to take one picture. And also Rika with her suggestion on how to get better at presentation. This is a tip I'm also going to practice in front of the mirror. This is a great tip.
And before we wind up, can I just take 30 seconds of your time, Dipshika?
Yes,
And
yes.
at one time, I just want to welcome all of them to Entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is a platform of Aspire for Her, and we, in association with the Mompreneurs Good Glam Group, we are bringing you this session with our very special mentor, Divya, Sampath. If you are interested in accelerating your businesses, we will put a link below. You can join the Entrepreneur community. We also have a Telegram group through which we particularly talk to you, and we conduct a lot of programs, and Divya is a very, very special mentor to that community.
Thank you
Thanks for
so
that
much,
reminder.
Rika.
Thank you so much.
Some ladies
And
are already
we
dispersed.
reciprocate at Entrepreneur. We love the Good Glam Group and the entire team. We can't thank you enough, starting from Naya downward, from Baby Chakra and the whole Good Glam Group. We love you folks. We love what you do. And we want to see more Good Glam-like successes. Thank you so much for doing the Mompreneurs initiative. We love it.
Thank you so much, Divya. So we will just quickly take a picture. Yeah, can I request everyone to please switch on their videos? Yes. Trisha, can you tell us if you're ready? Or if the car, just let us know, please.
Yeah, ready.
Okay. Are we done?
Done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. Thanks,
Thank you very
Rika.
much.
Thank you so much, Divya. This has been truly wonderful. Thank you so much for spending your time with all of us and helping us.
Always my pleasure. All the best,
Thank
ladies.
you. Thank you,
Rooting
Divya.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
everyone.
Thank you so much.
Great session.
Have a good evening.
So much.
Thank you.